I was at work and I received a call from Joe, and he said there had been a friend of theirs that died in a shooting, and he said that they wanted him to speak at that funeral. It was going to be at Haskell at the gym, and we were thinking just a small family, gathering. And so he wanted the family to go, and we were just going to go have church. We were just going to sing the praise and worship songs we were comfortable with and we'd prayed about. And so we go to Haskell, we get in the car, we drive down there. It's my sister and Joe and Lance and I. And we drive to Haskell and we show up at this gym, and it's packed with people. There was no more seating capacity. And we're looking around going, wow, who are all these people? And we began singing praise and worship, and we go through just a very normal church service. Joe preached like he would always preach. And after the funeral, I remember getting in the car, and we drive to the graveside, of which none of these people I knew. And we're sitting there, and it was such a devastating time. There were young people everywhere, and they were all teenagers. And you could tell that all hope was gone. It was just a heaviness like I had never experienced. And by that time, we had started hearing of other things that had started occurring in that town as well, and nothing was good at that moment. And we were talking about the way we were feeling there, not knowing any of these people, but the one boy's parents had died. And the car went really quiet. And in a moment, one of us said, I'm not even sure which one it was, I don't know what's going on with us. And they pointed out to the crowd and they said, but today, something powerful is happening, and the whole thing starts here.
Yeah. That week at Haskell, our hometown was just rocked. I mean, it was like we went to 3 funerals in 3 consecutive days, and all young men. And Rachel was a sophomore and we had just come through another previous death of one of her classmates a month prior. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like that Satan had a hold on the town. Literally.
How many had died?
Over the years, there had been too many to count, but this particular incident, we had lost 4 in 2 months. And then a month or so after that, we lost another one in a car wreck. So we lost 5 within a matter of just a few months. Wow. And, but the town was devastated, and I will never forget sitting down at that funeral that you're talking about, because when I heard you guys up there and saw you guys up there, I leaned over to Kyle and I was like, who are these people? Because we had known the family for years and knew that they were Church of Christ. And so we were expecting a traditional service, no music. And so we were surprised, but loved it, felt the presence of the Lord. Mm-hmm. And after this horrible week, there was such a yearning and such a cry out from the community for something spiritual. These kids were looking for answers. They were looking for anything. And a friend of mine that lived at Haskell at the time, they were coming to us. I was going to we were going to church in Muskogee at the time, and I was teaching drama there, and so they knew we had access to these human videos and things. And can we do something? Can we do a service? And so we were just throwing together these youth services, these rallies. The school was letting us have them at the school in the annex. The first one we had, there was probably between 250, 450 people there. And we did a human video, and someone spoke, and there was not one person that didn't respond to the altar call. I mean, it was just, the Spirit of the Lord just came through that annex that night and just bowled everyone over. Yeah. And from that came opportunities after opportunities. We just kept, well, let's go here, let's go there. And we went to Ulaga, and because that's where my friend Carrie was at, and did one up there with the youth. And then through that is how we came in contact with Pastor Joe and your Bible study that you were having on, was it Friday nights?
On Friday nights. Now, let me ask one quick question. I know so many people died. I had heard that a lot of it stemmed from drugs
Yes.
connections, and that's why so many schools then were. Because I remember someone saying, "Just say no to drugs and say yes to Christ."
Yeah.
Something like
And
that.
there was, and then on the other hand, the one previous to them was a hunting accident.
Wow,
And
just a lot.
there
of
was
death.
nothing involved there. Yes, and then a bunch of car wrecks had taken the lives of a lot of kids from Haskell. So, it's just like Satan was hovering over that town for a while. And it was our hometown at the time, and she was in high school, and Bodie was in high school, and it was devastating. But through that came such a ministry opportunity, and we seized the moment. I mean, we were going after it, and I put together a drama team that were Haskell kids, and we used the dramas that I had access to from Muskogee that I was teaching, and we had Baptist kids and Assembly kids and all denominations, and they were learning these human videos and going out, and we got the invitation to come out to you guys' place out at the airport.
We literally were at the airport.
Yes. And we did a human video called He Is. And it goes through the books of the Bible and talks about what Jesus is and all of his different names. And she had the lead because the lead was, she already knew it. And so it was just a quicker fix to get everybody up to speed to learn it as fast as we had to learn it. And so she was kind of in the center, the majority of that human video. And we had a great time out there, and we did some other things, but from that came meeting you guys. And
Well, that Friday night I'll never forget because it was the Friday night before Easter, and we were only a Friday night Bible study type. Our first Friday night Bible study, of course, it being us, it was catered, and we had fruit and all these fancy foods and things like that. But we had a friend, Carol and Scott Matthews, brought their friends over for praise and worship. And we started out in the end of the hallway where you could actually see the airplanes and you could see the runways. And I think there were 50 some people there. And it was all friends and families. And we outgrew that. I can remember we weren't there more than 1 or 2 weekends at the most. And then you guys come on that Friday night. And when I saw you, the presence of the Lord was so real because of everything you guys had been through. And our Bible studies were blowing out in attendance, and kids were coming in, and we were trying to use the talents we had, and we didn't have equipment to work with. That Friday night service came back to me, and I saw this girl in the center of the whole stage, and she had blonde hair, cutest little thing, high energy, and she had the biggest, brightest smile, and her eyes were the brightest. And it's like she just came back to me, and it had been several months since you guys were even there. And I called Joe and I said, this girl, and I started describing her. She was in the group that performed the Friday night before Easter. I just feel like I'm supposed to talk to her. And do you know how I can get a hold of her? And he was saying, well, I don't know who they are. I don't even know where their number is. I said, well, there were 2 ladies with them. He goes, yeah, but that's so long ago, I don't know. Oh, look, it wasn't 10 minutes till he called back, and he said, well, I found one number, and maybe at least it's a start. So I picked up the phone, and I called, and this lady answers the phone, and I'm going, wow, is she going to think I've lost my mind? And I actually said that. I said, my name is Denise Combs at the time, and you don't know me, but I was at your service, and I actually said, I don't even know if you're who I'm supposed to talk to, but there was a group that came to our church, and I described that night, and the phone went quiet, and I thought, oh, okay, she doesn't know anything about it, and she thinks I really have lost my mind. And I said, but I was praying, and there's a young girl, and I described this young girl in the center, and I just feel like I need to talk to her. I don't know why, I just got to talk to her. And the reason the phone was quiet is because it was Tabitha. And I'll never forget what you said. That girl would be my daughter, and she's here. Would you like to talk to her? So I knew it was a God thing, and I talked to you, and then you wound up coming on Wednesday nights because you just got your driver's license,
yes.
And your parents would let you drive to us from Haskell when we were in Bixby on Wednesday nights, and you started working with me, mm-hmm. And then we started rotations because we couldn't hand them all together. Mm-hmm. So you took the dance and performance, and I took the Bible studies and something else. And that's kind of where it started. And then I don't know why Tabitha and I remember taking Brandon and Dylan and a bunch of them when they were small to your church in Muskogee where you guys went, and we watched a rehearsal, and I think we took about 20 some kids with us. And that's where we kind of met you, face to face and physically. And then you started coming, helping on Wednesday nights. But after that, I remember being in the car with you, Tabitha, and for some reason we were going to Muskogee, and I think it may have been when they were doing an Easter program or something that you wanted me to see. And so we drove, and on the way you said, I have something to share with you.
That's about her praying?
That's about her praying.
Yeah, I'm going to let you tell that.
Well, as all of this is going on, and just, with all of the loss that we had, endured, and it really shook my life. I mean, Terrence was the first that we lost, and he was in my class. He was one of my good friends, and he died the day before my 16th birthday. And until that time, I had never even attended a funeral. I had experienced no loss in my life. And so it shook me big time. It took me, it still shakes me even now to think about it. And through that, and then through all of, the services and everything that you were talking about, it's just like all of us kids, we were just searching for something more beyond us, because this life is just, it's so fleeting, and we were just, I think we were just all searching, and I was searching for, like you said, I was a sophomore, and I'm, to that place where you're like, what am I going to do after high school? Mm-hmm. Because, up until then I had no desire, like other people in my class, to go to college, or, I had no desire for that. I didn't feel called to that. And, my life at the time was basketball. I loved to play basketball, and I loved drama. And I was super involved with drama at my church, and I knew I wasn't going to go farther than high school in basketball. I had already turned that down. And so it was just like, Lord, what do you want me to do? I have no idea. How can I pursue a life of drama once I'm too old to compete in fine arts? I mean, what's my life going to be? I don't know what can come from that. And so I just, begin to pray and just like, Lord, bring me something, give me something that I can say when people ask me, what are you going to do when you graduate? Because I have no idea. And so I had been praying, a few weeks before that. And then, I got the call from you, and it was just like, okay, Lord, here we go. Where is this going to lead me? And so we just, started working with the kids, and I just absolutely loved it. And I fell in love with them. Just working with them. And I remember, a couple months ago, our little kids now did the dance Hush Little Baby. And that's the first thing that I ever taught the kids. And I remember being at home making up the motions and like, oh, they're going to think this is so stupid, and just trying to come up with some cool dance moves that were church appropriate, And so when they did that, when they did that a few months ago, it just took me back to, that time in my life. And, it's just, and from there, just from working with the church, eventually, Bodie and I were dating at the time, and we, a few years later got married. And I remember having lunch with Pastor Joe and him asking me, to be hired on to the church for a full-time job. And but it was like, if we're going to hire you on to the church, then you need to come to the church, because at that time I wasn't actually coming to the church yet. I was just working there. And so Bodie and I weren't married yet, but we made the decision to start coming to the church. And then I started working at the church. I was hired on as the Landing's CIO, which was the Creative Inspiration Officer. I don't know how much creativity or inspiration I brought at the time, but I did what I could, and learned and worked at the church for, I don't know how many years I worked at the church, like a couple, 2 or 3 years. And obviously what that has led into is Bodie and I stepping into a full-time ministry and now being the youth pastors here at the Landing. And it's just like, when you look back on it and how orchestrated it all was, and how fulfilled Bodie and I I are now as youth pastors, when I would have never dreamed that would be where we would be now. And Bodie being a pastor, and that's come through all of this. And the story of the deaths shaped Bodie, and that's why he's a pastor now. And if you knew
And
him
Aaron.
before...
And Aaron, that's the reason Aaron gave his life back to the Lord.
Yes. There's just so many different things that were just birthed out of that. And, I mean, if you knew Bodie before all of that, I mean, he's just a completely different person now. You would have never thought he would be a pastor. And, I mean, I'm just so grateful and thankful for this church and, what all it's brought to our lives. And I mean, I just can't imagine another place to be in ministry.